Yo, what is going on, everybody? My name is Nick with the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys Week 10 tight end rankings for fantasy football in 2020. Inside of this video, I'm going to give you guys the top 20 tight ends for week number 10 of the 2020 fantasy football season. And we are going to be discussing why they are ranked where they are from 1 to 20 for this week. Now, before I get into it, I'd like to ask that if at any point inside of this video that you end up enjoying it, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. As well as real quick, I'd like to give you guys a quick word from my friends and my sponsor over at overlaydfs.com. And we are back. Let's get into it. Week 10 tight end rankings. We begin with tight ends 1 through 10. Coming in at number 1 for the week, we got Darren Waller going up against the Denver Broncos. Now, the number 1 spot is primarily owned by Mr. Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce does not have a game this week. He is on bye, so Darren Waller will be taking his spot for this week up against the Denver Broncos. This matchup screams high-scoring affair between Horsecock Drew Lock and Mr. Derek Carr, so I feel like this game being as high-scoring as I feel like it will be, Darren Waller being one of the better tight ends in the NFL and scoring a decent amount of points as of recently, and Denver's defense not being that great up against tight ends as of recently, put me in this conclusion that Darren Waller will be the number 1 tight end at the end of the week. And number 2, we have TJ Hockenson going up against the Washington football team. Now, it appears that Matthew Stafford is going to be suiting up on Sunday, as well as Big Ben Roethlisberger. So, TJ Hockenson is going to be a start for me this week as the number 2 guy up against the Washington football team. Matt Stafford loves to throw him the ball. It seems like Kenny Golladay is probably going to end up missing as well, so that's just more targets for Mr. Hockenson. At number 3, we have Noah Fant at the Las Vegas Raiders, and we just discussed it earlier with Darren Waller. It seems like this game is going to be decently high-scoring, and one of the main proponents of a high-scoring game for this offense of the Denver Broncos would be Noah Fant scoring a decent amount of points. He's been playing well as of recently after coming back from that injury. It seems like him and Drew Lock have a nice connection, and Noah Fant has been eating recently, so I'm going to continue to ride the train of Noah Fant. At number 4, we have Dallas Goedert at the New York Football Giants. Now, Dallas Goedert was actually one of the more sought-after tight ends earlier in the season before he ended up getting hurt. When him and Zach Ertz were playing together, when Zach Ertz was healthy, he was literally butt-fucking Zach Ertz when it came to scoring fantasy football points, and I feel like now, with Zach Ertz gone, with Dallas Goedert now healthy, I feel like we could see a big game here up against the New York Football Giants. Now, his last game was 2 weeks ago before their bye last week, and he only had 1 catch on 1 target, but I expect a target increase for one of the most viable pieces of this Eagles offense. At number 5, we have Mark Andrews at the New England Patriots. Now, Mark Andrews has been the complete opposite of what he was last season. Last season, he was a safety net for your fantasy team. You draft in like the 8th or 9th round that completely balled the fuck out. As of recently, he's been very hit or miss. Not because he's a hit or miss player and he's going to drop a bunch of passes, but because Lamar Jackson is a hit or miss quarterback at this point when it comes to the passing game. Sometimes Lamar Jackson is on it. He's amazing. He's throwing certified dimes to Mark Andrews. Then other games, he couldn't fucking see past 3 yards in front of him, and he just tries to run the ball a million times. So with that said, let's hope it's a passing game for Mark Andrews, and he looks good up against the New England defense, which shouldn't be too difficult considering the Jets almost beat the New England Patriots last week on Monday Night Football. At number 6, we have Robert Gronkowski at the Carolina Panthers. Gronk has looked very good as of recently, aside from last game up against the New Orleans Saints, but not a single piece of this Tampa Bay offense looked startable at all in that game. They got pounded all game long, raw dog style by the New Orleans Saints offense and defense. So I think that Rob Gronkowski is in for a big bounce back game up against the Carolina defense. At number 7, we have Hunter Henry at the Miami Dolphins. This is another game that I'm going to dub as a higher scoring type of matchup. Now, the Dolphins defense has looked very, very good as of recently, but that doesn't mean that their defense doesn't let people score. They're still going to end up scoring. Herbert has looked pretty good. While Hunter Henry hasn't been an amazing asset for your fantasy team thus far, there's a lot less safe options than Hunter Henry out there. So I'm going to go ahead and dub Hunter Henry as the top 7 tight end on the week, strictly based on touchdown upside up against the Dolphins. Number 8, we have Double E, Eric Ebron versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Ebron has honestly looked very, very good the last couple of games. While they do have that upper echelon tier at the wide receiver core, not saying like all 3 of these guys are the greatest wide receivers to ever grace the NFL, but Claypool, Johnson, and Juju Smith-Schuster are one of the better trios in the NFL. And even with that, Eric Ebron has still been eating like his name was Ezekiel Elliott. And in this game, up against the Cincinnati Bengals, up against a soft serve defense. I think Eric Ebron's able to get it done at tight end number 8. At number 9, we have another double E, Easy E, Evan Ingram going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Evan Ingram has actually been pretty good the last 2 games. The whole rest of the season has been complete shit. I wouldn't have been surprised if you guys had even cut Evan Ingram earlier in the season if you're in like a 10-team league and there was other guys to pick up. I would not have judged you about that because Evan Ingram looked like some fresh dog shit right on the goddamn street. But at the end of the day, Evan Ingram has looked much better as of recently. Daniel Jones has as well. Daniel Jones looked good up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you remember last time who choked the game for the Giants, it was Evan Ingram by dropping a wide open pass. No one around him. The man just dropped the ball. So, with that said, I think Evan Ingram is going to be a bit angry and have that bounce-back game this week up against the Eagles, even though it's not a bounce-back game because it actually looked pretty good the last 2 weeks. Closing in the top 10, we have Austin Hooper versus the Houston Texans. Now, I actually had Hooper much higher coming into making this video. I had him as like a top 7 tight end, and then the more and more I thought about it, I remembered how Austin Hooper is as a player, or not how he is as a player because he's a good player. I just remembered how the team narrative kind of works. Hooper may get screwed over by a random sighting of another tight end on the team scoring a touchdown. Hooper may not get as many snaps as you want. So with that said, I like Austin Hooper. This is a very juicy matchup up against the Houston Texans. But again, you just have to remember that this is the Cleveland fucking Browns when you're starting Austin Hooper. And he completely, fuck you, right in the ass due to the fact that he just doesn't get the proper amount of targets that you think he will get going into the week. Now, tight ends 11 through 20. Again, if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. At number 11, we have Jared Cook going up against the San Francisco 49ers. And Jared Cook is going to be looking not as much like a chef in this matchup with Michael Thomas and with Alvin Kamara healthy in this matchup up against the San Francisco 49ers. You're hoping for a touchdown. Now, the thing is, Jared Cook's hope for a touchdown typically results in a touchdown. The guy's just addicted to scoring like his name was Charlie Goddamn Sheen. I think Jared Cook will be able to get it done this week up against the San Francisco 49ers and be a top 11 tight end. But again, a lot of these guys back here, well, we're at 11. I'd say past 13 is when it starts to get to a complete and utter shit show, and you're just guessing which guy is going to score more points. At number 12, we have Roberto Tonyan going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Robert Tonyan has been on kind of a downturn, right? He was riding that high. He was doing rails of coke off of strippers' asses, and this man was on fire. One game, he scored 3 total touchdowns, I believe, up against the Atlanta Falcons, and now he's on the downward spiral. But this matchup up against the Jacksonville Jaguars is far too juicy for you not to be willing to start Tonyan this week up against a very bad defense in the Jaguars. At number 13, we have Jimmy Graham, going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Jimmy Graham, while this Bears offense has looked putrid, as of recently, it's looked awful. But with 9-inch Nick Foles under center, Jimmy Graham has looked very good, so I will continue to fire up Jimmy Graham as a top 13-ish tight end, and as one of the safer tight ends on the week due to the amount of volume he gets. At number 14, we have Mike Licky Amagasicki, tight end of the Miami Dolphins up against the Los Angeles Chargers. And while I believe this is going to be a high-scoring game, nothing from Tua Tagovailoa's first 2 starts have shown me that he loves Mike Gesicki like Mr. Fitz does. Okay? Ryan Fitzmagic loves Mike Gesicki, but it doesn't seem that Tua does. Now, does this mean that Mike Gesicki is going to be a complete and utter bust for the rest of the season? I don't know. I'd have to see him perform on a multiple game sample size before I'm willing to go ahead and put him as a top 12-ish tight end. But he's at 14 because the guy's a monster athlete. Up against the Chargers, there's going to be a decent amount of touchdowns scored, so I think there is definitely a chance that he ends up scoring, but I wouldn't bet on it like my name was Troy Bolton. At number 15, Logan Thomas at the Detroit Lions. Logan Thomas has actually been alright with Alex Smith. Well, he was better with Kyle Allen, so it's kind of just a shit show situation in Washington. I really have no idea who you would even want to realistically start on the team besides Antonio Gibson, besides Terry McLaurin, and besides J.D. McKisson-Titty. So I'm going to go ahead and put Logan Thomas as 15 because the Detroit Lions defense kind of sucks, so he could definitely score, but I don't see a whole lot of upside in him. At number 16, we have Jordan Reed going up against the New Orleans Saints. Now, Jordan Reed actually last week ended up starting after George Kittle ended up getting hurt. 2 weeks ago, they had to put him in as the starting tight end, and he did not do all that well. But this week, up against the New Orleans Saints, I think he'll be a little bit more ready and score a decent amount more points than he did last week up against the Green Bay Packers. At number 17, we have Irv Smith at the Chicago Bears. It seems like the Vikings have finally figured it out. Stop using Mason Rudolph. Let's use not Mason Rudolph, Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, the other tight end for the team, and let's use the guy with actual skill in Irv Smith Jr. This matchup is a bit scary for him up against the Chi-Town Bears defense, but there's a lot worse options than a guy who's been riding a goddamn hot streak in Irv Smith. At number 18, we have Gerald Everett going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, it seems like Tyler Higbee has been completely and utterly cucked out of this offense. Last year, once Everett got hurt, this man was balling out of control, but as of recently, it's looked like the complete opposite. Do I trust Gerald Everett? Kind of. Do I trust Tyler Higbee? Fuck no. I mean, this is just a confusing situation up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, if not the worst defense in the NFL in the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm going to believe in Gerald Everett and fire him up here as tight end 18. At number 19, we have Jordan Akins at the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Houston Texans tight end core is just a smorgasbord of tight ends in Akins and Fells. One of them will do good every other week, and then half the time, none of them do good. So Jordan Akins is all right as a tight end, but I mean, once you get down to these, like, tight ends back here, you're just hoping one of these motherfuckers ends up finding the end zone. Jordan Akins hopefully can do that for you up against the Cleveland Browns. And closing in on the top 20, Tyler Higbee versus the Seattle Seahawks. Again, this guy coming into the year was on a hot streak. Now he looks awful. So what do? Frankly, you just throw him back in the rankings. You say, yeet, you've seen him too many times play like shit. So you move him down to tight end number 20. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. Again, if you guys ended up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you motherfuckers. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow in the live stream. I love you all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, stay safe. Good boy.